Greetings, Texans fans or former fans. Pretty tough day. It's the Monday after the Texans lost to Jacksonville on the third or fourth Hail Mary pass of 50 yards that was successful for the winning play of a game in like the history of the universe or something like that. Pretty embarrassing. There's a lot of stuff going out on the radio, TV, newspapers, and things like that. And you hear a lot of fans, a lot of people talking, asking certain questions. And the main ones that keep popping up is, number one, why do the Texans continually end up in these games that are just, embarrassing historical type scenarios, and just embarrassing losses? Why can't they get over the hump from being an average team to a really good team? Why does it keep, why are they so mediocre? You got situations like the Rosencopter incident. You got the play that everybody calls the Doo-Doo Brown play against Jacksonville last year where Chris Brown throws his crazy halfback pass. You got the Chris Brown fumbling in the end zone against Arizona, which could have tied the game. You got a couple of Chris Brown missed field goals last year. Then you got the Hail Mary play. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. Why does that stuff keep happening? Are they cursed or things like that? Well, that's stupid. There's no such thing as curses, okay? Those are the types of things that happen whenever you're continuously put in bad situations where you have to make a play to win or you lose. And if you're constantly in that situation in the last minutes of a game, you're going to get the same results, especially if the guys that you're counting on to make those plays are not as good as the guys that they're trying to make the plays against. So the question comes down, well, who's the problem? What's the issue? Is it the players? Is it the head coach? Is it the GM? Is it the owner? Is it the coordinators? Who's at fault? Where does the problem lie? The reality is that if you look at the last 3 or 4 years with this team, you can point to at least 1 or 2 games where all of the above are true. There's games where the players obviously coughed it up, where the coaches obviously made terrible decisions, where they didn't have good enough personnel to compete with the other team, which would fall on the GM. So it pretty much runs the gamut that all the above is true. And it all goes back to the simplest explanation of what's going on with this team is that Gary Kubiak and Rick Smith, in my opinion, don't do a very good job of evaluating defensive talent. And I think that comes from the fact that they both come from a team that is known as an offensive team, not a defensive team, because if you look at a lot of the personnel that they've brought in offensively through draft picks and free agents, they've done a pretty good job. The issue that they have is they just can't seem to find anybody on the defensive side of the ball outside of really D'Amico Ryans who is able to play outside of their expectations. So what's the answer? There's no easy answer, but I can tell you one thing. If Bob McNair is going to go out and if he's going to scapegoat another defensive coordinator just to appease the fans and make it look like he's trying to do something, that's about the cheapest, most cowardly move that I could think of anybody doing. Because, listen, this is basically the same situation that Richard Smith had a couple years ago, and they fired him because he couldn't get the defense to do anything. So now they give the defense to Frank Bush. He can't get the defense to do anything, so then they want to fire him. The coordinator's not the problem. The coordinators are just coaching the guys that they have. The issue lies with the Texans don't have good enough players on the defensive side of the football. That's the main problem with this team. Their athletes are not good enough because the head coach can't tell you what a good linebacker or defensive lineman is, and the GM can't do it either. But they keep bringing people in time and time again that just can't do the job. Then you got bottom line Bob McNair, who wants to do things as cheaply as possible. A lot of people say, well, that's not fair. He wrote a $700 million check. Listen, that guy's made that money back and then some. The proof that he's a tightwad is the fact that he says, we're going to build this team through the draft. That's a nice way of saying we're going to build this team as cheaply as possible. And that's the reality. So, if Bob McNair decides that he wants to grow some stones and get rid of his coach and get someone who's willing to take the team to the next level, or if he's so in love with Kubiak, fine. Kubiak's not a bad guy. He's not a bad coach. He seems to get his players to play for him. They just make dumb decisions. And I think that comes down to them as players, and I got to hold them responsible for it. Maybe Rick Smith is the easiest thing. Maybe if you get rid of Rick Smith, the general manager, and get a general manager that's a little bit more defensive-minded, who can evaluate talent a little bit better, it might make everybody's job a little easier since they've already got a 3-year extension with Kubiak. I don't know. I'd like to get your feedback and see what you guys thought. Appreciate it.